Hey guys, Tapped Artington here. Gonna do a new series to go over basically the itemization of each class at 19, and some of this stuff may not be 100% fleshed out because some things have changed with the new server. So one example would be that the gnome warlock here has different base stats. They're not all that different. They have like 26 intellect, they have a little less agility, a little less strength. But for the most part, that has been the only major change that I've seen. Um, and human warrior has like one less spirit. No, so very minor changes. As far as the gear goes, I believe it's still basically the same. I haven't run into anything yet on these new servers that's entirely different. Obviously, they're rolling the game out in a different way, but for the most part, the gear and the level requirements for the gear is all the same. The only major difference that I've seen so far has been the fact that you can enter SFK at level 18, um, whereas before you was required 19 to enter SFK to get item like the Gravestone Scepter or the Shield. Or sorry, not SFK, BFD, Black Fathom Depths. It would require 19 to enter. Um, but I've only made a rogue so far. And another big change would be hunters can no longer use the scope, the max level scope on their weapons. They are forced to use the +3 scope on their weapon. So some minor changes, but for the most part, I believe this is going to be basically all the same. And so me and my buddy, we had put this master guide together a couple months ago, and we were gonna do a big post about it, and then Classic came out, and we just got so busy with that we completely forgot about it. And so I just wanted to do a little series that goes over in depth each class, all the itemization of each gear, um, the correct enchant for that item, the use of that item, and basically go through. This is a comprehensive, what we call master guide. Um, we even have holiday events. We have all the world buffs and consumables, and I'm sure there may be one or two changes there. We got the fishing event, and maps and a little about us. But I'll just go ahead in this video and sort of lay out what the basic overview, and this will be like a just sort of the first video in the series where we go through every class and every item, and we just go through it. So basically how we set this up. Now I should read this disclaimer for the gear. For purposes of consistency, we assume it is better to stat stack as opposed to stat smooth. This is situational and depends on your set as a whole. All BIS items are in order of preference, so you can see here um, it would be preferable to have a fishing hat uh, than green tinted goggles, but this doesn't necessarily mean, okay, so I guess it's easier to see with neck. Like Scout's Medallion is going to be better than the voice amplification, is going to be better than Tarnished Silver. Battle Healers on a Druid is going to be better then Engineer's Cloak is going to be better than plus 11 healing. Um, and I guess that's another big change there, is that not all these plus healings roles, or like I know the biggest one for Priest is Bracers. You can see we've already corrected it there to say 2-2, but um, initially it was 3-3 because on all the private servers it was a 3-3 was the max roll. So there may be like one or two items in here where a max roll is different, but for the most part these have all been um, that they've all been sort of tested. Like if we've seen something that was different so far, we've already changed it in here. Um, so so they are in order of preference. However, they all have different uses as well. Um, so obviously, Shadow Goggles, what are 6 Spirit, 5 Int, are going to have a much different use than Green Tinted Goggles, 8 Stamina, 7 Spirit. So it's not, they are in order of preference, and that preference is based on what we believe that class's role in Warsong Gulch is. Um, but hands down, Lucky Fishing Hat's going to be the number one helm for all classes across the board. And don't give me this talk of Hikari items. It shouldn't be in game. It shouldn't be allowable on. Well, it should be in game out of the Hikari urn. It shouldn't be acquirable for a 19. And if you remember back to Classic, when it was first found out, it was patched out within that week, and it just happened to be one of the bugs on private servers that never ended up getting patched out because what would they really care, you know? So I haven't seen anyone do it. Um, there are multiple places it drops, not just out of the steel lock boxes. But in general, Hikari items just kind of piss me off, and so I don't really want to go all that in detail because it really shouldn't be allowable on a 19. And if someone is able to figure out a way to get it on a 19, then I've got a very strong suspicion that Blizzard is going to remove that ability almost instantly. So we're going to stay away from Hikari items for purposes of this because it just gets annoying to consider Hikari items when really they're not supposed to be on a 19. Um, we assume armor values and uniqueness variables on Classic DB are accurate. Yeah, so that's talking about, we go back to green tinted. We say that the 35 armor value on green tinted goggles, we're assuming that's accurate. That's not really that big of a consideration, but it is worth noting because it does come down to it whenever we're talking about shoulders. It can make a difference. And when we say uniqueness, we mean, now see, this doesn't say unique, but it is a unique item because the quest is unique. Let's see um, what item would be unique. Because some items are unique, but you could double. Um, Geez, where's a unique item? So I want it lavishly jeweled is an example. That's a unique item. You can only have one lavishly jeweled ring on a 19. Uh, and so that's what we mean by uniqueness. So that there's no situation in which we're double stacking lavishly jeweled rings, because that would be pretty that would be pretty dang good for a priest. Um, before advisors or lore keepers, double stacking lavishly jeweled would be really good. So we assume that Classic DB, their armor values and uniqueness are accurate, and from what we've seen, The classic database has the most accurate data. Um, Wowhead is garbage. It might be good for normie level 60 stuff, but so is DB. So is the database. That's classic db.ch. It's really the best resource to be using whenever you're looking at this sort of stuff. Wowhead has just been garbage all around. I would not suggest using it. Um, Maybe for like a quest or something like at level 40 or whatever. But this site does a pretty decent job of everything. There's really hasn't been anything I haven't been able to find through this site, and it's all been accurate. Um, and the items are listed in in-game order. So what this means is that when the server is at its full completion, uh, these items are listed in the order that you would prefer them, given that they're out. So right now, Lucky Fishing Hat isn't out. It doesn't come out until ZG patch, or phase, I guess you'd call it. Um, but it's still listed here as number one. So like right now, Green Hinda would be the best thing you could have. Same with like Scout's Medallion. That doesn't come out until phase 3, or maybe phase 4. I don't know. But you definitely need Warsong Gulch Revered, or yeah, Revered. No, no, Honored. I think it might be Honored. What's that Revered? The weapons are at Revered, and the tabard's at Exalted. Yeah, I believe the ring and neck are at on. Either way, it's gonna take some time into phase 3 to Warsong Gulch to get the rep in the first place, to even get the item. So it's not like out yet, but we still list them in its order, um, just because it's really the most logical way to go about listing out the items. And so where you see here where we have a blank space under this Lucky Fishing Hat and a enchant next to it, this means like that there's a doubling of Lucky Fishing Hat. So ideally on a druid, you've got your Lucky Fishing Hat, right? Your 15 stam cloth plus 5 fishing, one of the coolest looking hats in the game. You have this, there is no uniqueness on it. And so the first one you would want Arcanium of Constitution plus 100 HP, right? And then since there is no uniqueness on the Lucky Fishing Hat, you would then want to get a second hat for 150 mana for the Arcanium of Rumination for the 150 mana Libram. And this would just give you more sort of playability and and having the option to swap around gear and to play out different sets of gear becomes more and more important the more you play a class out. You never want to be stuck with just a single set of gear and that's all you wear for all situations, because situations change, during over a game. Like you're gonna want to be wearing a different set, grabbing the flag out of the Alliance or Horde base, whichever's the opposing faction. Um, you want to have a different set of gear for that than you would want for sitting at your base waiting for the flag to get returned. Right? You'd want to have more stam. You'd probably want to be wearing Goblin rocket boots for that. So it's always you always want to have a different as many options as possible. And whenever we do this, whenever we make a 19, one of the things that's important is to get all the items that you can while you can get them before you're level 19, so that you don't run into the issue of, I believe I talked about this in the leveling guide, you don't want to run into the issue where you're uh, you're already level 19 and you realize, oh shoot, I could have gone and gotten this ghostly mantle from Deathstalkers and Shadowfang quest, but now I'm already level 19 and I don't have really enough XP to go and do that. And this is especially important on this classic server because there's a chance that Blizzard might take this into TBC, and allow the character transfer into TBC. Now they could just say no, everyone starts fresh on like a fresh TBC server. But if they're doing it like they did before, then your character just transfers onto a TBC server and you carry on. And you'll need as much XP for going into later and later patches or later and later expansions because new items come up. Like I know you need that that one cloak from the rep, at least on Horde side. I'm not a buff on TBC 19s, but you get the idea. Is that you want to get all like the quest type items and just all the items you can, and all the items that we've identified here is basically everything you would want in your gear set. Like this is everything you'd want in your bag. Now obviously, once you've gotten Scout's Medallion or Sentinels, if you're Alliance, there would be no real reason to keep either of these two neck pieces in your set. Um, but we just show them there because it is a gradual build. You start out with either the tarnished silver or the voice amplification, depending on your money, on how rich you are on the server, and then eventually you graduate to Scout's Medallion or Sentinel's Medallion. So, um, so yeah, this is just kind of laying it out. Oh, and then on the right, I'm sure you've been looking. What we've done is we've put the classes and their starting stats so you can compare. So something like Warrior, for example, would be something that you'd want to compare all the classes, all their base stats. Um, like I said, it seems like Blizzard has done a minor tweaking when it comes to the base stats, and I will check that out for each because I'm gonna do a video on each individual. So do like a video over Druid, and we'll go over like base stats, and I'll check it before we go and do that, and mark any changes down that Blizzard has made. Um, and then we got their racials here, and some of the racials like endurance for Tarn is no longer total health; it's base health by 5%, which is a decent consideration. That your stamina doesn't have that extra modifier on it. But for the most part, Blizzard hasn't changed too much with their game and the racials. Um, but yeah, and so what we've got that. We've got the race, the base stats. Oh, I'm getting going all over the place here. The race and the base stats, and then we've got like the specs. Oh, I've added the note. There is no longer a base HP. Um, we've got the base spec of like what you would go as a feral. This is for balance main. No, you're confused by it being called balance. This is your primary flag carrying spec, and then if you're on Alliance and you've got a Paladin flag carrying, well, you would want something like this, an assist spec. Um, and we do all sorts of variants. Mage gets crazy with the number of specs you can go with a mage. Um, there are a lot of different specs you can go with the mage, and we'll talk through them whenever we get to the mage video. So yeah, this is gonna be another 19 series, and we're gonna go through itemization and just basically dive into that side of 19s for this series. So I hope if you're not subscribed, you subscribed. So yeah, see you around.